kingdom of God's sake, who shall not receive manifold more. You're going to get more.
Yes.
God says, I'll open up the windows of heaven and I'll pour it out.
Amen. Thank you, Lord.
The rich young ruler. His attitude. His attitude. I'll tell you who else is interested in your money. The devil.
Yes.
The devil is very interested. And the devil has plans for it also. It is his desire to keep you under a bondage and a curse. The devil wants to keep you under bondage and under the curse. Y'all remember Malachi? You all read it back with me? You're under a what?
Curse.
Some people, when I've shown them that, they say, now I understand. Now I understand the things that's happened to me over these years. I now understand. It's the devil's desire to keep you under a curse and under bondage. And the best way he can do that is to affect your attitude. Remember, you're going to leave here today with an attitude that says, oh God, thank you for showing me. Are you going to leave here today? I wished I hadn't come today. I wished I hadn't come today. I didn't want to hear that. Oh, I didn't want to hear that. How many of y'all remember years ago as a youngster using flypaper? How many of y'all remember flypaper? Yeah. Y'all remember flypaper? I remember when I was living down here at Dixie Lee Junction on Hobbs Road, I remember my mother hanging it in the house, and it was somewhat on a little curly thing. You remember that? On a little curly thing. And I remember I was a little old tyke, and I thought maybe it was Christmas or something. I didn't know what in the world that was. Well, flypaper has on its surface a sweet, sweet, honey-like substance. Oh, it's sweet, like honey. And the fly, that fly, he'll fly around and say, I want the honey, I want the honey, I want the honey. Then he lands on the honey and he begins to eat. And then when he's had his full, he's ready to fly away. But he's on that honey. He said, oh, I've got the honey, I've got the honey, I've got the honey. Uh-oh. But then he tries to fly away. And the flypaper says, I got to fly. I got to fly. I got to fly. I got to fly. Well, many people today running around saying, I want the money, I want the money, I want the money, I'm going to get all I can, I'm going to get all I can, I'm going to can all I get. And before they know it, the money's got them.
Amen.
It's got them. And they sell their soul. God is interested in you. And He wants to bless you like you have never. There are people in this room today. Right here's one. I'm not going to, I won't presuppose on anybody else. But right here's one. I am blessed beyond measure. Amen. I am blessed beyond measure. And I know where it comes from. Amen. And I know why He does it. And I know what I do. I learned about tithing 30 plus years ago. And oh, I wish I'd learned 50 years ago about it. It'd be unbelievable. There's one more person interested in your money. You. You. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're interested in it. Some churches these days hold their people accountable for the tithe. For instance, Presbyterian Church, right up here on Kingston Pike. Cedar Springs Presbyterian Church, been there 150, 200 years. 7 or 8, 10,000 members. And each member gets a pledge card. They hand you a pledge card the 1st of January. And you write down on that pledge card, which also has your phone number on it, which also has your address on it, and you write down that pledge on that card and you turn it in. Weeks and months go by. Nothing comes in off your pledge card. Guess what you get? Guess what you get? You get a phone call. Hello, sir. This is the treasurer down here at the church, and I see you. Now, folks, I'm telling you the truth. This is the way they do it. I'm not totally against that. I'm not totally against that. Now, when you're running a battleship up there, see, we're running a little motorboat here. They've got an aircraft carrier up there that takes about $100 billion a year. Yeah. They got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of missionaries. They send $20,000 and $30,000 a year to them. Oh, I know. I've been right in the middle of that. John Wood, the pastor up there, he's a dear good friend of mine. I've been in his office many times. I've looked at their budget. I know what's going on. My boss, chairman of our company, Doug Horn, he's a big member there. And there's members there that give millions of dollars every year. Millions of dollars. And then, oh, by the way, first month or 2 months goes by and you get a phone call, sir, you have not kept up with your pledge. Well, what are we going to do? Well, what are we going to do then? Now, how would you like to get that phone call? How would you like that? How would you like that? Well, I'd be embarrassed to no end. I'd crawl in the hole and just about die if that happened to me. But they hold their people accountable. Are you accountable to the Lord? Are you accountable? Now, folks, I don't nobody say anything, but I want you all to raise your hand that know this figure. In every church, not just here, and not just Cedar Springs, but in every church, 80, don't say it, don't say anything. If you know the answer, raise your hand. 80% of the giving is done by what percent of the people? If you know it, raise your hand. If you know it, raise your hand. If you know it, raise your hand. Okay. Okay. Now in unison, you 7 or 8 people say in unison. Ready? 20%. 80% of the giving is done by 20% of the people. You can't run that aircraft carrier up there if the people do not give and give as they're supposed to. You cannot run this little motorboat right here. You know, I've always said all I want to do is be a little screwdriver for the Lord. That's all I want to be. That's all I have no desire to get out there and be anything else except be the pastor right here. Amen. I have no desire to go anywhere else. Amen. Amen. I cannot make sure that every person is walking in obedience, but I can make sure and preach it the way Jesus wanted it preached. I cannot make you do anything. Cannot force you, and I wouldn't even try to. And I'm going to say this to you. I'm not the best preacher in the world. I've heard a whole lot of preachers that I think are 1,000 times better than I am. 1,000 times better. I'm not the best preacher. But I'll tell you one thing. There's not a preacher in this world that can preach a better gospel than I can preach. Amen. Because I preach the truth. I will give you the absolute truth. Amen. The absolute truth. And it's what you do with the truth. You know, we've got several members here today. We've got some people here today that are not members. They're not members. They do not belong here. And we've got some people here today that probably think they're a member, but they're not a member. Why? Because they've never stood up here and never been voted on. Never been voted on. Never been voted on. Never have. They might think they're a member. They might. I've been coming there ever since I'm a little bitty kid, but they've never been voted on. Never been voted on. Then we've got some members here. Let me tell you what we've got. We've got some people here. We've got some people here that years ago sent me. They gave me a 3-page letter telling me why that they wanted to be a member of this church. A 3-page letter, front and back, written, handwritten. Now I'm going to tell you, never in 30-something years, have I had a better letter written to me, saying, this is why I want to be a member. And in that letter, here's what they said. Folks, you never get this, you never get it. And that's where I want my tithe to go. I want a tithe. Adrian Rogers said these words, and I will quote Adrian Rogers. Do y'all remember Adrian Rogers? Down in Memphis, Tennessee, Bellevue Baptist Church. Great pastor down there. Still on television right now. Several years ago when I went to the inauguration for George Bush, the last inauguration, he was there and he gave the prayer at the prayer breakfast. And after it's all over with, we were out getting our coats out. I think we were at the Willard Hotel. How many of y'all know where the Willard Hotel is? And we were there and went out there, and it's over 200-something years old. Think about all the presidents that's been in the Willard Hotel. Think about all the presidents. And we went out there in the hall and we were getting our coats, and Adrian Rogers was getting his coat, and I told my bride, I said, I want to go over there and I want to meet Adrian Rogers. I've been to his church, and I never got to meet him personally, but I went down there and I said, Dr. Rogers, I want to thank you for what you mean to me and all the preachers. He put his arms around me. He hugged me, and his mouth was right there, and he started praying in my ear. Started praying right there in front of all the people. And he prayed for me and my family and our church. Adrian Rogers prayed for you. You know what happened about 8 months later? I didn't know he was sick. I didn't know he had cancer at the time. I didn't have a clue. He'd been battling it for years. He passed away. But do you know he's still speaking today? Do you know he's still speaking today? And Adrian Rogers said, if God doesn't have your pocketbook, he doesn't have your what? Your heart. If God doesn't have your pocketbook, he doesn't have your what? Heart. I'm quoting Adrian Rogers. That's not my words. I'm quoting Adrian Rogers, which I consider a good man, a good preacher who served a great God. Great God. Amen. Be careful where you put that word great in front of it. Be careful where you put that word great. Amen. Amen. Just so that you know, we don't really give to God. What we do is return to God. We're only returning to God. Now there's 3 groups sitting right here today. 3 groups. You're a part. Everybody in this room is in one of these 3 groups. Number 1, first group. It's all mine. It's all mine. I worked, I earned it, I deserve it. I can do what I want. And when the offering plate goes by, maybe, I may not, maybe, I'll give. Maybe I'll give a little bit. I don't have to. But if I felt led to, I might give $1, or maybe 20, or something. But it's all mine. It's all mine. And I can do what I want. That's one. That's one person. Then there's two. Then there's two. All right, listen to this bird. The tithe belongs to God. He's real pious. The tithe belongs to God. And the rest is mine. All the 90%. It's all mine. In obedience, I gave him 10%. I gave it to him, I did. And I'll tell everybody in the world. I'll walk around mine. I tithe. I'm a tither. And the rest, I'm going to do what I want to with it. I made it and it's mine. And then number three. Number three. It all belongs to God.
Amen.
The tithe, the rest of it, I return to him what he has commanded, and he entrusts me with the rest of his money, his money. Just because I return the tithe, that doesn't give me the right to do whatever I want to do with the rest of it.
Amen.
I still have to pray about everything I do. My lifestyle. There are some people that live a lifestyle that is so unbelievable. There are some people that's got so many bills out there. They've got this and that. They've got all these things, and there's no way they can tithe. They think. They think. They think. I'm going to be judged someday for what I have done with the tithe. I'm going to be judged. Before I got saved and born again, everything that happened in my life, and you too, before I got saved, everything that happened in my life was erased. But after I got saved, from that moment forward, I'm going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ and give an account. Why I did it. Why I did it. What is your motive? What is your motive in what you do for the Lord? And are you doing it in the Spirit? The Bible says, whatever we do in the flesh profiteth what?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing.
Zero.
I can tell these people that sing, when they sing for the Lord, if you see them on TV or see them in certain places, see them in a concert, I can tell these people that are just performing. They're performers. Performers. Yeah. There's a radical difference between the two groups and the third group. These three groups I just gave you, big radical difference between the two groups and then the third. The first two say, I'm the owner. I'm going to share with God first. I share with God when I want to. And then the second says, I'll share with God because I have to. I've got to do it. But then the third one says, it's all God's and He shares with me.
Amen.
It's all God. I'm proud to say this past year that we as a church gave love offerings about $25,000. We gave love offerings to help people. Yeah. Oh, I'm proud. Oh, I'm proud. I'm proud that we could do it. Thrilled beyond measure. %10 is a simple calculation. It's as simple as moving the decimal point. What is the tithe on $100?
10.
What is the tithe on $100?
$10.
$10. That's how easy it is. Yeah. Since the beginning of time, tithing has been God's method. God's people through all out history have maintained the practice of returning to God the first 10%. Now, that's the Old Testament law. And some people say, well now Pastor, that's in the Old Testament. That doesn't have anything to do with the New Testament. Oh yes it does. Oh yes it does. And you'll understand as I go through this and get to where we need to be in just a moment. And in Genesis chapter 14, turn there. Genesis chapter 14, verse number 17. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chetamar, and the kings that were with him at the valley of Shiva, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him what? And he gave him what? Tithes. He gave him tithes. Now this is before the law ever came out. They took of all the spoils of war, all their increases, and they gave it unto the priest for the continuation of God's work. They knew then they gave it to the pastor. They knew then to give it to the preacher. They knew then to bring it in. Now let's look at the tithe. And as Abraham commenced it in Genesis chapter 28, hundreds of years later. See, the Genesis chapter 14 was 100 years back. And we'll look at Genesis 28, verse number 22. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that shalt thou give me with surety, give thee the what?
10.
Now folks, some of y'all were saying, now Pastor, where does it say we're to give a tenth? 10. What does it say right there? Give what? 10 unto thee. Jacob continued it. Then Moses came along and gave the law. Moses came along in Leviticus 27 and Leviticus 27 and in verse number 30. Just flip on over to Leviticus 27 and verse number 30. And remember I read this every Sunday. Just almost every Sunday. And all the tithe of the land, where the seed of the land and the fruit of the tree, it is the Lord's. It is what? Holy unto the Lord. And concerning the tithe of the herd and of the flock, and even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth, what is it there? The what?
Shall be holy.
The what?
Tenth shall be holy.
I got about 20 people that ain't helping me one bit. And the what? The what?
10 shall be holy.
10. That's better. 10 shall be holy unto the Lord. Moses commanded. A few hundred years later, hundreds of years later, in the book of Malachi, hundreds of years later in the book of Malachi, which we went to, Malachi, in Matthew. I'm going to go to Malachi. Of course, Malachi is what we read earlier when we first started, in Malachi chapter 3, and then we've already read that. Now let's go to Matthew. Since we've gotten through the Old Testament, we're going into Matthew and chapter 23. Matthew chapter 23. I'm trying to hurry. Trying my best to hurry. I've got 5 hours. God knows I don't believe this. Matthew chapter 23. Matthew chapter 23, verse 23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees. What did he call them? Matthew 23, what did he call them? Hypocrite! Well, you're just an old hypocrite, Jesus said. For you pay tithe. What does he say there? Jesus said the word pay what? Jesus said the word pay what? Tithe. Now, folks, if y'all want to get out of here before 2 o'clock, you're going to have to help the preacher. If you don't help the preacher, I'm just going to stay right here. You pay tithe of mint. Now, Jesus is saying, listen, you're paying the tithe. You're paying it. You're paying tithe of mint, anise, and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, faith. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Jesus said, you were right to have tithe. Jesus said, you did the right thing. Is everybody looking at that? Jesus said, you were right to have tithe, but you also should have done those other things. Tithing is really a basic foundation, but there's much more to add to that. And tithing is not an excuse for an unholy living. You cannot buy God off. But notice, He does commend them for by being obedient in the tithe. Also, tithing is not serving God in total. It's a good start. It's a good start. But it's not enough. Abraham commenced it. Jacob continued it. Moses commanded it. Malachi confirmed it. Jesus commended it. And who would I be to teach anything any different? Who would I be? Who would I be to tell you any different than what Abraham said, and Jacob said, and Moses said, and Malachi said, and Jesus said? Besides, the New Testament always demands more than the Old Testament. Always demands more. It's always been God's method. It has always used His people to do His work. It's God's people to do His work. The water of life flows freely right here. The water of life flows freely, but the plumbing costs money. The power bills cost money. Our power bill here in this past month was triple. How many of y'all had a triple power bill? Raise your hand. I had one. Triple. Yeah. And I had good reason for mine to be triple. It wouldn't have been, but I had a fire back in December and burnt a humongous hole right through my house. And it's been wide open. People in there working. It's a mess. But thank God I've still got a house. Amen. And if we didn't have people, if 20% of our people didn't give way abundant, do you know why we're debt-free right here? Do you know why we as a church, we don't owe 1 red cent to nobody? To nobody! And we've got enough funds in the bank, we can do anything that we want to do. We can do anything that God would launch us out to do. And we're frugal. We're frugal.
Good word.
We're frugal. We're very frugal. Oh, yeah. And for those we mentioned before, tithing wasn't just a duty, it was a delight. I can't wait to give. I look forward to giving. And you know, when I have people work for me and it's payday and I want to write them out a check, you know what I tell those people? What do I tell those people, Mark?
What?
What do I tell those people when it's payday and it's time for payday? What do I say to those people?
You love to do it.
I can't wait to do this. The workman is worthy of his what? Hire. He's worthy.
Amen.
Oh, he's worthy. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse number 7. I say this many Sundays too. 2 Corinthians 9, verse number 7.